Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my series of Ascendants. Today we will talk about the Sagittarius Ascendant. And if you don't know what your ascendant sign is, click on the link mentioned in the description of the video and find out what your ascendant is. Do not confuse this with your sun sign or your zodiac sign because this is Vedic astrology. And to find out your rising sign or your ascendant or your Lagna, they're all the same thing. You would need your time of birth, date of birth, and your place of birth. So once you have these three things, you can use that link in the description and find out what your ascendant sign is. Okay, and once you figure that out and you have the number 9 just like this in your first house, so this is your first house, that means you are a Sagittarius ascendant. Okay, so let's get to know what Sagittarius ascendants are like. So to understand the Saggis, we first need to look at their first house and their fourth house. Why? Because both Sagittarius and Pisces is denoted by the number 12. Okay, they are both ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is considered in Vedic astrology as one of the most benefic planets. All right, Jupiter is also known as the teacher, the guru. Principles. So Saggy ascendants usually have these kind of traits, right? They are known to be people of principles. So very, very rarely, unless Jupiter is very severely afflicted in a chart, or the first house has malefics sitting there like Rahu, or affected by Saturn badly, usually these people are full of principles. They want to follow the protocol. All right, and not just that, they do not appreciate others breaking the rules as well, which is why sometimes people in the judicial system, like the judges, like the judge is also seen by the Sagittarius ascendant. Okay, people who are teachers, people who are gurus, they are masters of a certain specific field. Because why I call them masters is, look at their 10th house, right? Their 10th house is ruled by Virgo. Okay, and what is the sign of Virgo? Virgo is the sign of analytics. Virgo is the sign of analysis. All right, and Virgo is the sign of intelligence. That's what is associated with the sign of Virgo. So the Jupiter energy of principles and the energy of imparting knowledge to others, because it's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in Hindi and Sanskrit is also known as Brahaspati or Guru. Guru translates into teacher. Okay, so imparting knowledge is something that comes naturally to these people, and since Virgo is the significator of analysis and intelligence, they usually become the subject matter expert in whatever field they are in. Okay, so because to impart knowledge, you need to have the knowledge. And how do you get the knowledge? You get the knowledge because of proper analysis of your subject. So even if you're if you are a businessman, okay, and you're a Saggy ascendant, so you would have great knowledge of business. You could actually teach people how to start their own business and consulting. You could become a consultant for new entrepreneurs. If you're a doctor, you would have done something in your life where you have actually taught the junior doctors. You could have been a lecturer in a medical college. All right, so this is what naturally, these are the traits that naturally come to the Saggy ascendants. And since the 9th house traits come into the first house now, they are also extremely fond. I think 9 out of 10 Saggy ascendants that I have met, they are extremely, extremely fond of traveling. Okay, so they want to work for a certain time, and then they will save up. They want to save up, and then they want to travel here, they want to travel there, and by the time they are in the later portion of their lives, they would have traveled pretty much all the world. Their passports won't have a stamp, a place for a stamp, right? Especially if Rahu also is, because Rahu also kind of can expand the, traveling desire to travel. Okay, if Rahu is placed in a few nakshatras, they definitely want to travel the world. Okay. The other thing about Saggy ascendants is they are also they're usually very, very fit. They like to look after their health as well. Okay, so very rarely will you find a Saggy ascendant that doesn't take care of their body, because they try to stay as far away from intoxications, unless they are going through something to do with Venus or Rahu, or the ascendant is aspected by Venus where the desires kick in, right? But they are usually very controlled about what they eat, and like to take care of their bodies. Okay. Now let's look a little bit more at their fourth house. Why? Because Jupiter also rules their fourth house, and Pisces sits there, and Pisces is the sign of the 12th house, of the original 12th house, and it's known to be the house of the spiritual realm. Okay, so their homes could be could have the feeling of a monastery. You walk into the house of a Sagittarius ascendant, you would see even they may not be religious, but they would have decorated the house in such a way that it might look like a mini temple, or they might come across, oh, you're extremely religious, you go to the temple, or they would have a statue of a small statue of Jesus Christ, maybe. Okay, or they will have some kind of decoration that is they found in a monastery. Okay, they could have bells there in their houses. Okay, they could have the statue of Buddha somewhere in their living room, right? But they have these distinct, very distinct homes, Saggy ascendants. Okay, they would want to have some kind of you will get that feeling of a monastery, or a place where you can just get lost into yourself in solitude, because Pisces also kind of signifies solitude. Okay, so that's that thing about their homes. And their mothers also could be very spiritual. Their mothers could be full of principles, because the Jupiter energy is there in their homes. Okay, now let's look at their second house and their third house. And why will we look at the second and third house together is because Saturn rules their second and third house, and Saturn and Jupiter aren't really known to get along really well. But as per the ancient texts, apparently Saturn still kind of has some respect to Jupiter, since Jupiter is such a learned guru. Is the guru of the gods. That's what is Jupiter. Okay, so since their second house is the Capricorn ascendant, Capricorn sign, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so their second house of family, their food intake, like I said, their accumulated wealth, everything, all of that is ruled by Capricorn, and Capricorn is known to be very strict, very disciplined, patient, very structured and organized. So they could be from the army background. Okay, their family could be from the military army background, or they could be from some kind of a background where they are raised in strict discipline. Okay. And about their wealth, you would rarely see Saggy ascendants spending unnecessarily. They're very careful with their money. They would like to invest. They would like to invest if they have some earnings. They would like to invest it, and they would like to put it somewhere so that it's safe and it keeps growing. Okay, so they're pretty good with their fixed assets. You have a family member of your, or if your spouse is Saggy, you figure out they're Saggy and you see Saturn is well placed. You tell them, hey, you ask them to invest the money, and they will invest your money in really solid fixed kind of deposits where they eventually keep growing and they are safe. So they're pretty good with that. Okay. Now let's look at their third house. Third house is ruled by Aquarius, and Aquarius again has the Saturnian traits of discipline, of being structured. So Sagittarius ascendants are usually very disciplined in the way they speak. You would rarely, because they are the gurus, they are the teachers, right? So communication becomes very important for them, right? And that's one of the reasons why their seventh house also has Gemini in it, because seventh house is the house of partnership and also the house of spouse. We'll talk about that in detail, but they know how to partner with people with their communication. And 11th, which is number 11, which is denoted by Aquarius, is the masses. So they connect with the masses with their communication, which is why Aquarius sits in their third house, because a guru or a teacher needs to communicate to the masses so that the knowledge is passed on. Okay, so that's about their third house. Now we've discussed the fourth house. Now let's look at their fifth house. Their fifth house is ruled by Aries. That's the Mars energy. And since the fifth house is ruled by Aries, Mars becomes a yoga karak planet for them, which means it becomes an extremely benefic planet for Sagittarius. And to understand the fifth house and why Aries sits there, we need to understand Mars, the Martian energy in the fifth house. The fifth house is the house of children. The fifth house is the house of their initial education, not higher education, their initial their school and stuff, junior school, all of that. Also the house of romance. Okay, the house of creativity, the house of your any kind of any kind of business that you want to do, which is to do with speculation. Okay, the film industry is seen from the fifth house. All right, so since the active Mars energy of Aries sits there, they are usually very good with with anything creative, Sagittarius, and they don't realize that. Okay, this is something that they could realize later on in their lives. I've known a couple of Sagittarius ascendants that they have realized that they could sing well only in their early 40s and mid 40s. They did not realize all along that they could sing well. Okay, if their third house is strong, for example, if Jupiter goes to their third house, okay, they could be in the communication, in the teaching industry, but they did not realize till their late 30s that they could sketch or paint well. Okay, and one fine day, because of something, they started sketching or they started painting, making a painting, and it just turned out to be amazing, with no professional training, with no professional training. Okay, so the creativity kind of flows in from the house. And also the house of children, so they love physical activity. Children, firstly, they're very fond of children because Mars and Jupiter kind of get along really well. Okay, and since Mars is a beneficial planet for them and it rules their fifth house, they usually they could be into some visit. If you're a Saggy mother or father, you would love to go play, physical, you would want to play football with your kids, or some kind of physical activity, probably go cycling, or some kind of, or swimming. Some kind of physical activity is something that they like doing with the children. And since remember, Sagittarius is again a fire sign. Okay, and they are not the chilled out and easy gurus or teachers that you're thinking of, like Venus. Saggis are very strict teachers. So if they have to impart knowledge to their children and the children aren't like really listening to them, Sagittarius ascendants could really give their own children a tough time, because it's the Aries energy there. It's the Mars energy. So the same Aries parent that would go play outdoor games with the children could really put them in their place and, like, and try to discipline them if they've done something wrong. Okay, that's something I've noticed about the Aries, the Sagittarius Ascendant. Okay, now let's look at their 6th house and their 11th house. And why will we look at these two houses together? Because they are both ruled by Venus. So Taurus sits in their 6th house and Libra sits in their 11th house, right? Now this is very interesting, that the same Venus energy is responsible for the 6th house of enemies and 11th house of friends, the 6th house of debt, and 11th house of incoming gains. Okay, 6th house also denotes any court cases, anything legal, litigation. It's the house of your enemies, right? So anything that goes to the court, like if you have a divorce and that goes to the court, so that's seen from the 6th house. Okay, your pets are seen from the 6th house. Okay, so when Venus rules both these houses, firstly, I would suggest all Sagittarius Ascendants never to get into a debt. If you have credit cards, or if you've taken a loan, try to close that loan as soon as you can, because the same Venus energy that is responsible for your 6th house is also responsible for your 11th house. So their incoming gains and the house that causes debt, that's the same planet. Okay, so to get the positive vibrations and energy of Venus, avoid taking loans and debt. And if you are into something, try to close it as soon as possible, because that will start your inflow from the 11th house. Okay, and usually they don't have many energies because they have this principle. They have this teacher kind of feeling about them. They could be their enemies. People could consider them as enemies. Like students could consider them as their enemies, thinking that they are making my life difficult, because they are very strict and disciplined. Okay, if you have a Saggy lecturer, or if you have a Saggy gym instructor, they would really put you, they will give you a tough time if you're not following their instructions. Okay, now let's look at their 7th house, and we'll look at their 10th house. Why? Because both these houses are ruled by Mercury, and we have discussed the 10th house a little bit. Now let's look at their 7th and their 10th together. So Gemini sits in their 7th house, and Gemini is the Mercury energy of communication, the energy of intelligence. Gemini ascendants, Gemini and Virgo both are known for their intelligence. So since Jupiter is full of the Saggy energy is full of knowledge and principles, they are attracted to intelligent conversations. So they look at their spouses who firstly like to communicate, okay, and they have intelligent communications with their partners. That is something that's a turn on for the Saggy ascendants, male or female. Okay, and what is the sign of Gemini? Gemini is the communicative sign. They keep yapping, talking all the time, right? Even if even if no one is listening. That's why you see stand-up comedians are seen from Gemini. Okay, so Saggis are attracted and drawn to intelligence. They are attracted to this communicative, to people who are intelligent and can hold a conversation, and that is what they look for in their partners. Okay, which also means communications becomes very important for them. Remember, they are the gurus. How does one impart a knowledge? Through communication. So communication is very important for them. Okay, so if they have business partners, they want good communication with them. They want them to be intelligent and communicative. So the problems Sagittarius ascendants have with their partners is usually about at times they can impose their opinions on their partners, and their partners could feel that they seem to They seem to be too, if they believe in certain thing, they just know it, and they're very headstrong about it, and they don't want to change that. Okay, about having strong opinions about certain things that their partners may not agree upon. Okay, their partners could think that they are preaching all the time, because it comes naturally to them, because they are from the sign of Sagittarius, where they want to impart knowledge, and their partners could think that, can you stop giving me knowledge? I'm just trying to have a conversation about certain thing, or I'm just telling you how I feel about certain things, and I do not need to know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. Okay, so they could have ego related problems, especially if Sun has something to do with their 7th house. Okay, which means if Sun is conjunct with Mercury, or if Sun is sitting in their 7th house, they could have ego problems as well. Their partners could be very egoistic as well. All right, so that's about their partners. And their jobs involve, whatever job they are in, they like to be the subject matter experts. So if they're gym instructors, they would want to know about nutrition, what to eat, what not to eat, which exercise is good for. They would know details about it. If they are lawyers, they would know the law. They would memorize which law applies where and stuff like that. Okay, so since analysis comes into their career, so if they get into research, some of the most well-known Saggy ascendants were into research. For example, Amartya Sen, the Nobel Prize winner, okay, about finances and economics. I mean, he's done all his research. And what do you need for that? You need to have analytic skills, and you want to research. So that is seen. And when I'm talking about research, we need to look at their 12th house as well, because Scorpio sits in their 12th house. And their subconscious brain is already in tune with research, because Scorpio signifies research. Okay, going deep into things, right? So any career that that the Saggy ascendants pick, firstly they would like to analyze. That comes naturally, because that's their career. The career is ruled by this analytic sign of Virgo. And secondly, they like imparting knowledge. It comes naturally to them, and to impart knowledge, you need to be the subject matter expert of that particular field. So if you have Sagittarius astrologers, they would have great knowledge. They would, if they go into a certain yoga, if they want to analyze a certain yoga, they will analyze that in detail. Okay, so that's about their career and their spouse. All right, so now let's look at their 8th house. Their 8th house has Cancer in it. Now this could be a problem, and Moon kind of becomes a very malefic planet for the Sagittarius ascendant. Why? Because the 8th house signifies ups and downs, sudden changes, and Sagittarius people do not like sudden changes. They want stability in their lives. Okay, even if they look for relationships, usually Saggy ascendants like long-term relationships. They are not the ones that that look for short-term relationships or a hookup or something like that. They are not interested in that. Okay, because their approach is very idealistic to life. Okay, I'm not calling them old-fashioned, but about their life and about their they want to lead a so-called normal life. They want to get married on time. They want to have children. If they want to have children, they want to have children at a certain time. They want to finish their studies, and they want to earn their own money. They don't want to do something out of the so-called norms. And Moon is the most fast-moving planet, and that governs their 8th house. So even if they don't like it, and especially if Moon is not well placed. Now, if you see, the Moon gets exalted in the 6th house, and it may look like a very good position for the Moon, but it can cause lots of ups and downs in their in their lives. And since it's the house of their in-laws, the family of the spouse, and Cancer sits there as the fourth house emotional energy. They could be quite kind of emotionally connected to their to the family of the spouse. Okay, so that's about their 8th house. So about their 11th house, we have already discussed that. They are kind of balanced about how they deal with their friend circle, their networking circle outside, and Venus governs their 11th house of gains. So they're kind of balanced about that. Sagittarius Ascendants are also not really interested. Money isn't the main thing in their lives. That's something that we need to learn about Sagittarius Ascendant. Okay, they need money and they will work so that they get money, but their main thing in their life could be to learn more. Sagittarius Ascendants are also absolutely fine if they have a very loving partner and a family. They don't need money. Okay, as long as they are learning new things and they are able to express their knowledge and spread their knowledge, they are happy with that. Okay, if Mars kind of sits in their first house, or if Jupiter also comes into their first house, they could also they could live their life for a certain reason. For example, for a cause. For example, Mother Teresa is a very is a great example of Sagittarius Ascendants. Okay, Vivekananda is the world-known guru of the Vedanta philosophy, is a Sagittarius Ascendant. Okay, Amartya Sen is a Sagittarius Ascendant. Okay, Kishore Kumar, the master, the legend among singers, is a Sagittarius Ascendant. So that was my analysis about the Sagittarius Ascendant. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, and if you want a consultation, go to my website www.swamisaptaparni.com, and stay tuned because I will keep making more videos on Vedic astrology, and I'll talk to you soon. It was nice talking to you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.